Hello. So today we're going to start building our Connect 4 application. And it's a GUI, graphical user interface application, so we need to import some packages that have classes that we'll use. So the three we're going to do, java.awt, java.awt.event, and javax.swing. And with all those, we're just going to not worry about individual classes. We're just going to use the star there so that we import the entire package. We're going to call our class Connect 4, and it will extend JFrame. JFrame is an application window class. It's very handy because it comes with a lot of pre-existing methods that we can use. Things like giving it a title, giving it a size, and making it visible. So what we've done right now, we have a main method where we've created our Connect 4 object. And then we have our constructor. When we call it, it builds the basic framework of the window. So when we run it, it looks like this. Ta-da! And there it is. Okay, this is the window that we'll start working with. I see there's something in the chat. So what do we have there? Where exactly when it extends JFrames? That means Connect 4 is a subclass of JFrame. Extends is the magic word that says, you know, this class, Connect 4, is a subclass of that one. Okay, so a Connect 4 is basically a special kind of JFrame. We can add methods and data onto it. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to make another class, a subclass of Jpanel. So here we'll do class CFPanel equals extends Jpanel. Okay, so this will be our special class for game squares, right? Because you're all familiar with the game Connect 4. There's 7 columns. They're 6 deep. You drop disks in along at the top. Yeah, that's the way it works. So for each of those, we're going to need, some panels. Actually, we should probably make our thing a little bit taller so we have room to drop the disks in. Okay. So CFPanel is going to be that. And we can already start thinking about some data for this. So if we have an array, right, how's it going to be? It's going to be 6 rows and it's going to be 7 columns, right? Now, the array doesn't care what way we set them up. So we could just say something like int rows equals 6, int columns equals 7. And again, the array doesn't care whether, I'm going to draw a quick in paint here, right? Okay, so if we have it like this, this is, 7 by 6. This is how the humans are going to see it. But if we take all this and rotate it, right? If we turn it sideways, it's still the same data there. The array doesn't care, right, what the spatial layout is that we deal with the data. What matters is we have a way in the program where we can consistently refer to it. All right, so let's do that. We have 6 rows and 7 columns, and we're going to have an array, right? So I will be an array of ints called, what shall we call it? We'll call it board. Okay. So that's our basic data, right? If we wanted to, we could add player 1, player 2 as options, but we don't need to do that just yet. So let's get the framework of the game working first. So in our constructor, what we want to also do, let's set up the board. Okay. In fact, this might as well be 2 there. Okay, so we could set up a set of codes, right, for what am I thinking? I guess I'm thinking of different ways to do it. Let's make, it won't be an array of ints, it will be an array of CF panels. Okay, so we'll do that. So we'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than rows, I plus plus, whoop, and then for int j equals 0, j is less than columns, j plus plus. Okay, and for each one of those, we'll say cf, we'll do board at I j equals new cf panel. Okay, and eventually we'll add all those things to it. So I guess we should set visible at the end. Okay, so what we have here, right? Fill out the game board. Okay, so initially it's all blank. There's nothing there. Okay. The other thing, when we're talking about this game board, we have set it up as an array of rows and columns. So for every row, there's a bunch of columns. But it would be perfectly legitimate to also do it as a column with a bunch of rows. The only thing is we have to remember which way we did it. And the way we did it is rows and columns. Okay. So for each one of those, it's a new CF panel. So what is a CF panel going to be? Well, that will be a Jpanel. Okay, what's a Jpanel? A Jpanel is a surface that you can add on to your application window. Jpanel is going to fill up all the space that's available to it. So we'll just show you how it works. So first thing, we're going to add something. We're going to add component. We'll give it a Jpanel up here. Ordinary Jpanel. Okay, so this.jp equals new Jpanel, and then we can do this.add jp. So we're going to add a panel to the application window, the JFrame, the frame. Okay. And each one of these we're going to add. So to do this, we need to set up a framework. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to say this dot JP. We're going to give it a layout. Okay, what's called a grid layout. And the grid layout will be rows and columns. So we're going to do rows, columns. Okay, and for each one of these then, we're going to add it to JP. So all this stuff, we have added our various panels to it. Now, if we wanted to check what was going on here, we could also add in some text. Okay, and that might not be a bad thing to do. So, children, hold on, everybody's making a little bit of noise and the door's kind of open. Okay. So let's check and see how this goes. Let's make sure it doesn't just crash and burn right off the bat. Null pointer exception. What have we done here? Oh, we never declared the size for our array. So yeah, okay. So let's do this. Let's do board equals new CF panel, size rows, size columns. Okay. There we go. Even though it doesn't look like anything, right? At this point, we have added all the panels. Okay, we'll do some stuff with them in a moment, just to verify that they're all in fact slightly different. So let's, I also want to do one thing in the console here. We have to, in our application, we have to set one more thing. this dot set default close operation exit on close. If we don't have this line in here, set default close operation exit on close, that means every time we close a window, the application is still going to be running. So to get rid of those, we'll go down to the console. Okay, there it is. And we can see over here, we click on one of these, we see that we have 4 applications still running. So one at a time, we're going to shut all those down. And then we won't have to worry about them anymore. And all of our future ones will be gone. So, okay. So to verify that these are in fact different ones, we're going to set up we're going to set up some slight differences in color for each one. So for the row, we're going to have that be a red value, and for the columns, we're going to have that be a blue value. Okay, so we're going to implement a color. So let's do color C equals new color, and we'll do, say, 30 or 60 plus 20, 30 times row. I'm just doing some math in my head. 30 times I, and that's red, and then 0 for green, and then for purple we'll do, can we still get away with that? 60, 30, yeah, 60 plus 30 times J. Okay, and then JP dot set background color C. Okay, don't worry if this is all a little bit garbled, we'll go through it. I just want to demonstrate that it works before we, well, that's a little weird. Okay, I didn't add them. JP dot add, yeah. What's going on? Oh, JP, I set the background color, not the board thing. Ugh, okay. No wonder. No wonder I didn't see anything. Okay. Boom. And there you see we have all of our different colors. So you can verify we have 6 rows, 7 columns. Everything is super. Okay. So let's walk a little bit through what I did here, and then we'll get into some of the application logic. So we'll comment up this code a bit. So first thing, okay, I guess the first thing we'll do more with JFrame here. So JFrame has a lot of useful methods. Okay, you can use autocomplete to see some, or else go to Oracle and check out the class details. Okay, but if you want to, anytime you're doing something JFrame, if you want to see the things that can do, you could do like CF dot, oh, and look, here's all the things I have. There's a bunch of add possibilities here. It can add components, add hierarchy, mouse stuff. Okay, lot of methods. You see how many methods there are? There's a lot of stuff. It's a good thing we don't have to write all this ourselves. Okay, so there's that. We're going to hard code in the number of rows and columns, right? Because why not? That's not going to change. Our game board will be an array of custom panels. CF panel is a subclass of Jpanel, okay, which is a combined container and drawing surface. Okay, so basically a Jpanel, it does 2 things. Number 1, it gives you a surface you can draw on. So I made a background color for all of those squares. And the other is you can also contain other things in it. So, and then this Jpanel, JP, this is the panel that all the components will be stacked on top of. okay? And it will be added directly to the Connect 4 frame. Okay, so that's all of the basic stuff that we're doing. Now, next thing we make the new object. We don't need to comment about that. But we'll do something with the game structure in a little bit. These things, set title, set size, set default operation, these set up the initial gameplay area. Okay, so we give it a title, give that a size. This ensures the application ends when we close the window. Otherwise, it won't. Okay, and we want it to close. All right, so this other stuff, for all the frame, right, we create the new objects, we add them. Add method stacks one component on top of another. Here, we're adding the Jpanel JP to the frame itself. This automatically divides the Jpanel into a specified number of rows and columns. Okay, so again, we have 6 rows, 7 columns. That's how many we've done. So it's all going to be squares like that. Then loop to fill out the game board. I'll add this. The color is specified as an RGB number. Basically, each of red, green, blue is 0 to 255. 0 is darkest. 255 is brightest. Okay? Brightest. So here we're giving it a moderate to high number for red, a moderate to high number for blue. So that's how come on our window we saw a lot of reds to purples. Okay, and this just assign the color to the background of the CF panel. Okay, so this is it. Now, next thing for CF panel, all right, go down here. Oh, last thing in the frame. I'll add good practice to make the frame appear only after all components have been created and added to it. Otherwise, it will probably flicker, and you don't want that. Okay, so you build all the stuff first, and only at that point do you make it visible. I'll add, without this method call, the frame would never actually appear. So by default, the frame is not going to be visible, and that's the reason why, because Java wants you to build all the stuff first and then make it visible so it doesn't flicker during the build process. Okay, next thing. So CF panel is going to have a couple pieces of data, right? Really only one. What's it going to be? It's going to be int value. Okay. Now, we can set up a whole complicated code scheme, right? Let's do it. So let's make a CF panel constructor. And initially, we'll say value equals 0, which indicates not occupied by either side, by either player. Okay. But what can we do? Well, if somebody drops it, we're going to change it to 0, 1. Somebody drops a piece down that column, right? We're going to change it to 0 or 1. So that's fine for now, though. Next thing we might want to do is create a loop, right? A loop that's going to wait for people to drop in game pieces. So let's make a method for that. So our basic structure is going to be something like, where's my main method? There it is. So we'll do while true, we can do this to start, right? We can do a start new game method. We'll eventually advance beyond this, but for now it'll do. So we'll have a method here, void start new game. So initially this will be the main loop of the game. Now when we start a new game, what are we going to do? Well, we put in some pseudocode here, right? We're going to say players take turns dropping pieces. After each move, check for game end, either by victory or all spaces taken, right? Because it is possible to play a game of Connect 4 where nobody wins, though it's pretty rare. And then repeat as needed. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to do. Now, for this game, we're going to have a couple of J buttons. So J buttons, or as you might guess, they're buttons. J buttons are clickable GUI objects we can use to launch events. Okay, we can use to respond to events. So I'm going to give it 2 J buttons. So one called JB cancel and another called J button JB start. Okay, so we can start a game, we can end a game. So we're going to add both of those to our area, right, to our game. So we'll do that in the constructor method. So we'll say add buttons. So we'll do J. Actually, what we want to do is break up this. So we're going to do another couple things. We're going to do something called a box layout on JP. We'll leave JP the way it is, but we'll do another one called JP base. Okay, so JP base. So here, JP base is this one. And for JP base, we will give it a different kind of layout called a box layout. So this dot JP base, okay, dot set layout new box layout, and we're going to call it JP base dot box layout y-axis. Okay, this layout manager that I'm making here, this will make the components appear in a vertical line. So I'm going to have one part on the top that holds the gameplay, right, that holds the game board, and another region underneath that holds the 2 buttons. Okay, so I'm going to do JP base, add JP. All right, so JP can still be another Jpanel. Okay, and I'm going to make another one, so Jpanel JP2. Okay. So I'm adding JP that has all the game pieces to the top, and I'm going to add the other ones, right? JP2 is new Jpanel, JP base, add JP2. So I'm going to add that to it. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to add in the 2 J buttons, right? So JB cancel equals new J button. We'll give it the words cancel. And then the other one, JP, what was it, start or JB start? Yeah. JB start is a new J button start. Okay, we're going to add both of them to our panel. So JP2 add JB cancel and JP2 add JB start. Okay, so let's take a peek. Let's see how this looks at this point. It's going to be a little screwy because we haven't fixed everything yet. Ooh, well, that's one thing we haven't done either. All right, let's see what's a null. Oh, yeah, I got to do that. Okay. We can always clean up the code later. There we go. Now the problem with what we've done here is we haven't sized the components well, right? In this kind of box layout by default, again, we have equal size components. So the top looks kind of absurdly small relative to all this empty space at the bottom. So let's do something about that. We're going to give it a preferred size. So we're going to do jp.set preferred size, new dimension, and we're going to give it, what is it, 700 by 600. Okay, and we'll see how that goes. Much nicer. How about that? Okay, so I think at this point, we're starting to look pretty good. Now, next thing we can do, all right, these buttons, we can click on them, but they're not doing anything yet. But let's expand the frame just a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to give it, right, like I said, it has set size of 800 and 600. We have a little bit of space down below. So I'm going to make this 850 by 600. And I'm going to leave some buttons on the top. So every one of those buttons at the top, every one of those squares, every one of those columns, I'm going to be able to drop a token into. So we're going to make a new thing. So instead of JP2, we're going to do a JP0 for up above. Okay, so we're going to add that first. We're going to add JP0 above JP. Okay. So we'll do JP0 equals new Jpanel. Okay, we're not doing anything with that. We'll do JP0.set preferred size, new dimension is just a couple of numbers. You can do stuff with it, but call it 100 by 600. Okay, so that's going to be our size for that. And then let's see, if we've done anything else, we got to add it. So JP base, add JP0. Okay. That scrunched it down a little bit. What am I doing here? Oh, yeah, silly me. Should be 600 high. Hold on, I'm a little, yeah, I don't want to do that. Why, 850 by 600. We should do, sorry, I was a little frazzled there. It should be 700 by, let's say, 750. That's what we want to do. So this new dimension, that can be, this can be 700 by 600. This can be 700 by 100. All right. It's easy to get a little frazzled with your directions. Much better. Okay, good. So now we can drop some stuff through. We have room at the top. If we wanted to, we could put a bunch of buttons across each of those, right? But we won't do that for now. We're just going to do, we'll set up a clickable version of this. All right, but you're wondering, how can we do anything with the buttons, right? I mean, I can run this application and the buttons aren't doing anything yet. Okay, so let's enter in some of that other frameworky type stuff. Let's get the buttons to do things. So first thing we can do, let's to make a button work, we have to use the implements magic word. So use the magic word implements to use the methods of an interface class. All right, so we know with inheritance that you get access to all the methods of the superclass because your class then is a special kind of that superclass. With interfaces, it's different. You're not in an inheritance hierarchy with it, but you can still use some of its methods. So we're going to have this one called implements action listener. Okay? So the interface for JButtons, which can pretty much only do one thing, right? They get clicked, is action listener. And action listener, has exactly one method. So one, relevant method. So if we click over here, we have an error. We have an error now because it says, "Hey, you haven't implemented all the methods of this interface class." So we're just going to do it. We're going to add them by double-clicking there, and then down at the bottom we can see, oh, here's the action perform. So this is the method that's going to be called whenever somebody clicks on a button. Okay, so the only other thing we have to do, call that event, I guess. The only other thing we have to do with our JButtons is we have to register them. That means we're going to have to set them to respond if someone clicks on them. So here we'll do JB cancel add action listener this. So all this means the J frame, the connect for frame is what's going to respond if somebody clicks on it. Like likewise, JB start is going to do it. Here in the method, anytime this method gets called, there's going to be an action event object that gets sent along. So all this is happening behind the scenes in the guts of Java. Somebody clicks on a button, it's going to generate what's called an action event, and that's going to trigger this method call, and the event object here will send along the details of that event. So we can at least find out who clicked on it. So we can say if event.getSource equals JB cancel, right? We could do something like, I don't know, system.out.println cancel was clicked. Okay, or else if event.getSource equals JB start, system.out.println what? Start was clicked. Okay, so here we have all the stuff we need to make the buttons do things. So if I run this, I can click on cancel, and there it is, right? Down in the console, we see it. This is not terribly useful to have it happen in the console, but I could do other stuff. For example, maybe for start, what I want to have happen is clear the screen, right? Instead of having it be gray, or instead of having it be red and purple, maybe I have it go to a different color. So you do this. Okay, I could do this. This is going to be a color arrangement for, okay, we're just going to do some graphical stuff here. All right, so if I press cancel, it's going to just change this to the default setting. If somebody presses start, then maybe at the top of the game, I'll say this dot set title, and it could be game in progress. Okay. If there is no game in progress, then I could do this. I could say, you know, this dot set title connect 4. Okay. So for this one, let's see. I'll leave it at that red and what's it called? Red and blue. This one, maybe I'll make it a combination of, I don't know, let's do green and blue. Okay, so instead of this, I just bring this over and then boom. Okay, so I can very quickly switch over between the two. So if I do, up there it says connect 4, right? So watch it. If I click start, boom, game in progress. Ooh, it didn't do my color switch. JB, oh, because I actually created the array. Geez, no, I don't need to do that. Sorry, let me think here. I just do this. Yeah, because I'm messing with the structure of the gameplay itself, right? So I don't need these lines. I just want to zip through and do this. All right, let's see. Oop, didn't like that. What am I doing here? Oh, shit, I made a new array too. Why did I do that? All right, this is what happens when you just blindly copy code, right? Horrible things can happen. All right, now I think we're good, I hope. There we go. All right, I cancel it, puts it back. Flip, 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 flip. Okay, so at this point, let's see, I think we have all the essentials that we need, right? So let's, well, let's take a break for today then. I'm gonna shut this down. So we've built up our gameplay area. Tomorrow, we're gonna set up a few key things, right? So number one, we're going to add space for the player names. We could probably do that right now in a few minutes, but we'll leave that for Friday. So we'll add space for the player names, and then we'll begin the gameplay, right? Gameplay should be one word. So we'll do that, and then time permitting, we'll implement the victory checks. Okay, otherwise we'll push that off till Monday. Victory checks are a little bit complicated in Connect 4, as we'll see. So that might be worth taking a day to discuss that. But this is, you know, the same kind of stuff that you guys will be doing with tic-tac-toe. Maybe. I had my IDS 313 class do tic-tac-toe in JavaScript, but I don't know. Maybe this is what we'll have you guys do. All right. So we introduced a lot of new concepts here. I'm just introducing them at this point. We're going to see them all in much more detail in the next couple weeks, where we do a lecture on GUIs and we do a lecture on graphics. If you want to get a little bit ahead of that, I'm going to post those two things up tonight. And then if you want to, you can dig around a little bit in them so you can see some of what's going on here. Maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. Or you can just watch and go along and try to, you know, observe it by learn by osmosis. And then when the time comes that I actually talk about it in the lecture, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. That kind of makes sense now. Okay, so either way, you'll get to see the material twice. Well, I'm going to stop the recording now. And if there are any questions,